That was quite a price run on XRP yesterday, wasn't it? So, of course, we got a little bit of a pullback today, but that's very normal in crypto land. That doesn't signify that anything's weird or bad or broken. In fact, lots of analysts were calling for this because you don't go up perfectly in a straight line. Think about it. We got to $2.41 yesterday. So at the time that I'm recording this, we're a little bit lower. More on that in just a second. But the best is unquestionably yet ahead. In fact, I'm going to share with you perspective, commentary, and analysis from 15 different XRP chart analysts, including one who says, and I quote, for XRP, $27 is inevitable. That's a bold quote. And although I'll never make a price prediction because that's just not my shtick, I will acknowledge that ain't crazy. That is not in crazy land. That is absolutely confined within potential outcomes. The whole market pulled back. I mean, with a few exceptions, there are a handful of coins that are about break even, a couple that are up a little bit, but pretty much everything's down. XRP's at $2.26. But we're still way up off the lows. Keep in mind, for some perspective here, it was just about 3 weeks ago, XRP was $1.80. So it'll go from $1.80 to $2.41. I'm no math wizard, but that's 61 cents higher. That is 61 cents higher than the bottom of $1.80 just a few weeks ago. Now, for some context here, that swing in price that happened in very short order, the vast majority of it in one day, that's like twice as much as what XRP has been worth for most of the time that I've held XRP. Because most of the time I've held XRP, it's been between 20, 30, 40 cents. So to see in one day the type of move that we got yesterday, that's incredible. XRP's living on a different plane, my friends. It is in a whole different realm than it has been for most of its existence. So it's on a new plateau. And it was very obvious. I mean, if you're paying attention throughout last year, 2025, XRP was ranging. I mean, so yeah, it was awesome to see we got multiple new all-time highs. So yes, we were vindicated. Yes, XRP's an obvious winner. But what did it do for most of the year? It ranged from a little over $2 to a bit over $3 for pretty much the whole year. That's where it lives now. But before that, I mean, for so many years, it would live between like 20 and 30 cents. Now we're talking about $2 to $3. And back when we were ranging between, it's so funny to think this is actually real now. Well, back when I was running my channel back in the day and XRP was between 20 and 30 cents, I said, guys, I know it's 20, 30 cent range, but eventually we're going to be at a level where it's between like $2 to $3. I was saying stuff like that. And I'll tell you right now, one day we're going to be at a level where it's going to be normal for XRP to fluctuate between $20 to $30. I will not be surprised if that happens at some point in the future, because that's the general progression that you see here. And so I admit I don't know when XRP is going to go. I don't know to what level it's going to reach on any given market cycle, so it's not a prediction. But in the future, without a timeline, would I be surprised to see that? No, not at all. Which is why I keep saying, fast forward a decade and then look back on this moment in 2026, you will recognize, even if you're brand new, you are super early to XRP, because most of the money that will ever flow into XRP has not yet flowed into XRP, but it's going to. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Michael from December 6th. So just 1 month ago today. The black line, of course, is the price of Bitcoin. The red line is a capitulation metric. And isn't it funny how that operates? As the price of Bitcoin goes down, capitulation metric increases. And what do you know about the scariest times when price goes down the most? The capitulation metric rises the most in those moments. And so what did he write a month ago? He wrote, Bitcoin capitulation at record levels. This typically marks bottoms. Most are now sidelined. Interesting. So he was fully optimistic a month ago that the market was going to come back and rally. He was optimistic that we were in a bottoming phase. He didn't know exactly what day we were going to launch, but obviously he was right. And so he reposted that just last night, and he said, I hope you didn't sell the bottom just before the final parabolic leg of the cycle begins. And so he's in the camp that obviously this is a lengthened cycle, and we do have one final blow off top before we finally enter a real bear territory here, but we're not there yet. And then just this afternoon at 12:41 p.m. Central, he wrote this. And mind you, so the market was already pulling back a little bit at this point. Nothing crazy, but this is normal. Bitcoin came down, XRP came down, normal stuff. He wrote, they're just stopping out late longs before bears get obliterated once again. Don't fall for it. Next leg up, coming very soon. Well, I don't pretend to know when, but I'm definitely in the camp that this cycle isn't over, so I buy into the narrative. Yep. Here's a post from Dom. This is actually part of a thread. I'm not going to read the whole thread, but it started on December 22nd, 2025, and it was an XRP US oil pair that he's charting here. And he wrote, this chart has been in a fierce downtrend for nearly 3 months. Okay, so let's pause right there. If you're talking, basically it's around the time when you saw the October 10th liquidation event, even if it started technically trending lower a little bit before that. But to be clear here, XRP was falling against pretty much everything on the damn planet. You can put up any XRP pair that you want. Compare it to anything outside of crypto, it's falling relative to that pretty much. So that's not terribly surprising, but yeah, Q4 was rougher than what we would have preferred, but there was also a black swan event. That's what that was. October 10th, that was a black swan event. It absolutely impacted the market for months. Absolutely. Anyway, and then he said, there is a clear trend line that's been holding it down. It's evident that this pullback is different, so the question is how long it lasts, and is a relief push due to print soon. All eyes are on that trend, as once we see acceptance above, price will print the strongest upward push we have seen in months. Folks, that was just a couple weeks ago, December 22nd. And yeah, it did happen. And when he said it's different, yeah, he's correct, because there was a black swan event. So we don't normally get those. So in that sense, it's certainly different. That I would agree with that. And then he said this is the update just from this afternoon, 3:11 p.m. He said, XRP US oil update. First rejection came right when price tapped range high area. This level has been respected for over a year now and should remain very important as an over-under. It's been broken once, and that produced a 30% move to the upside. So he's not convinced that this is done here, very obviously. Here's a post from chart analyst Credible Crypto. He said, and this is XRP, of course, beautiful move and a textbook triple tap setup completed on XRP. Sometimes we get a dip prior to hitting our upside target, and sometimes we don't. At the end of the day, we take what the market gives us, or doesn't, and then look for the next opportunity. And so he is one of the analysts I follow who believe that, yeah, we're in a phase where it's very realistic to believe we could move to the upside, and we ultimately did. And he always warned that there could be a pullback, and it came a little bit later than perhaps, in the short term anyway, than what he would have expected. Doesn't matter. You don't go up perfectly in a straight line, so whether it would have been capped at $2.30, or in this case, we ran at $2.41, we're splitting hairs here. Doesn't matter. We're going higher. He is absolutely in the camp that this is an extended cycle, and he believes XRP is likely to peak between $20 to $30. He's made that very clear. He's not moving away from that prediction even a tiny little bit. Here's a post from chart analyst The Great Matsby. He said XRP. And by the way, this is yesterday afternoon. I wanted to note this. So XRP was $2.33 at the time, and it did go a little bit higher, obviously $2.41. But he said XRP just hit market symmetry of this angle around $2.34 as resistance now. It is likely to slow down now after I was very bullish sub $2 when many top accounts were bearish. Bullish at support, cautious at resistance. Yeah, and so again, we went for a short period of time a little higher, but that was roughly the right area to be like, okay, well, it's been a nice run. Maybe tap the brakes. Now, if you're a long-term holder, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of fun to watch. If you're a trader, that's when it matters more. But yeah, for people like me who refuse to trade and I just hold and hold and hold, it's more so just like fun to observe here. But yeah, of course, again, I'll say again, you're not going to go perfectly in a straight line. But when you get little breathers like this after a really, truly strong run, you shouldn't be surprised. And think about it. This is the market with how strong XRP has been in 2025 and also to start 2026. This is the market screaming to you that, yes, XRP makes sense. We believe it's a winner. That's what the market is telling you with this type of price action. Compare it to the rest of the market. XRP is showing ridiculous strength right now. And it has been ever since the election, November 2024, despite pullbacks. I'm telling you, relative to the rest of crypto, the market is screaming this at you for anybody that will pay attention. We are so fortunate to have this opportunity. Here's a post from chart analyst Tara, XRP USD on the screen here. She said, and there's the 236 retrace on XRP at $2.27. She said that this short-term correction. Oh, and actually, let me note this first. She posted this morning, 11:47 a.m. And she said, this short-term correction is still developing. The 236 support at $2.27 is the new critical level on XRP, holding well so far. Moving average is pushing right up and adding support as well. We need XRP to come up to test the $2.30 level sometime during this wave, even as high as $2.33. It could have turned into major resistance again. If it cannot break past that level, it would mean XRP is headed for deeper retrace targets at the textbook 382, which is $2.18. Again, because of the strength of the wave, yeah, that's certainly obvious, I do think another test of the highs is going to come after this retrace is complete, still targeting $2.49 to $2.66. This will be adjusted with the correction low. So still optimistic that number go up. You could see a little bit lower in the short term if that happens. Don't get stressed out about it. All of this is not, we're in a range, folks. I mean, we've had a surge, but here's the way I look at it. It depends on what you mean. You could talk about a range in a short term versus more of a long-term macro range. Since I'm not a chart guy, I'm like, when I say stuff like that, I'm almost never talking about the short term unless I explicitly state so. So when I'm talking about a range, I'm thinking about what we've been in throughout 2025 to now. And that's why, like, I'll just remind you guys, and it is like, for me, and I believe this ever since 2017, my investment in XRP is a binary bet, meaning either I'm wrong about XRP and one day it goes to zero, or I'm right and it's worth a freaking fortune compared to what it's worth now. And I was saying that same thing to myself in 2017. Directionally, we've only gone the right way. I mean, yeah, there was a scare with the SEC, but in terms of what's the market telling us, what's adoption telling us, what's the community telling us, up. It's going up and to the right on a chart if you just look at that stuff. That's where we're trending, obviously, right? So what I wanted to highlight here, though, and the reason I'm saying this is just to point out that everything that happens in between those two things, whether it goes to zero or we do get the face melting rally, and that is what I'm waiting for, because one of those things will happen. We're going to zero or we're going to have a face melting rally one day, okay? Anything in between is noise. Anything in between there, to me, it might as well be a range in a macro sense. It doesn't matter. I mean, it only matters because, like, I've got so much skin in the game that I'm hyper-focused and I want to watch this every day because it's fun. It's not going to change how I treat my investment, but it's fun to watch. You guys get it. You're in crypto. But that is how I look at it. One of those things is going to happen. And where do I lean? Well, duh. I think we're going to get the face melting rally. And that's going to be life-changing for me, and I'm sure it's going to be life-changing for so many of you listening. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do believe that's way more probable than going to zero, even though nobody knows what's going to happen technically, of course. But that's the way I look at it here. And so that's all that to say, when we see all the noise in the short term, it is just that. It's noise. In the end, it's just not going to matter. Number go up. Just saying. Here's a post from Chart Nerd. Got a few from him, actually. First one is from yesterday. What time was this? 11:06 p.m. Okay, so last night. And he wrote, XRP has bounced off of its reaccumulation support, but now has descending, broadening wedge resistance ahead to break through. A pullback towards the lower $2.20 area is likely if we fail to break through resistance on this occasion. Okay, now note that when he posted that, XRP was near its high, the local high, at $2.40. So he was noting, okay, guys, getting overheated. I'm paraphrasing, but getting overheated here. Could see a little bit of a cool off, maybe closer to $2.20. And so we did. We basically got that. And so he reposted that this afternoon at 12:59 p.m. And he said, I did express that we would likely see a cool-off period, and that pullback is now in motion. Retracement towards $2.20 to $2 will mark the low before another rally attempt to push back to higher highs. So even if we go lower, this is not something to be afraid of. It's something to be aware of, because when it comes to investing, we are our own worst enemies. And so if you're aware that something that is reasonable that could happen, then if it does happen, you don't have to get hit in your feels and make important financial decisions based on emotions. You don't have to do that, as it turns out. You can use logic and reason and data instead. That sounds smarter, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Here's another one from Chart Nerd. I love this. He is not deviating from this. He wrote, XRP, $27 is inevitable. Most just don't see it yet. Yep. Okay. I will not be the tiniest bit surprised if one day XRP ends up being $27, whenever that is, whether it's this market cycle, another one past that, whatever it ends up being. I will not be surprised. Because like I keep saying, XRP is an obvious winner. There's just so much toxicity and tribalism in crypto. Some people, like the toxic Bitcoin maximalists, they just cannot see it because they are functional idiots. You know, like they truly are. They're a bunch of unsophisticated, knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing troglodytes with cashew-sized brains. Can't even get their own goddamn shirts on in the morning without assistance from someone else. Wearing Velcro shoes and helmets for their safety. Living under a bridge next to a dumpster fire to stay warm. Charging crossers of the bridge in Bitcoin to cross the bridge, which at times of high congestion can take well over 24 hours and fees in excess of $50, historically speaking. That's what they're doing. Bunch of idiot sticks. So there's that. But the rest of us can see this. If you just, look, I admit, I'm biased, fine. But I am always seeking to believe whatever is true. I came in as a blank slate and figured out that XRP made sense. And if it ever doesn't make sense, I'm going to be intellectually honest with myself and all of you. I'm like, guys, we got some problems. And then we'd have a talk about it. But that's not where we live right now. Everything is pretty awesome sauce as far as I'm concerned. Here's a post from chart analyst Bark. He shared this with his 247,000 followers. And so it's basically price prediction stuff here. Bitcoin to $180,000, Ethereum to $12,000, XRP to $25. And they named a couple others. But I'll just say this. If Bitcoin's going to 180K, $25 is not exactly difficult, let's say. If there's that much money sloshing around the crypto space, and if Ethereum goes to $12,000, my God. I mean, isn't it the case? I haven't thought about this in like a couple weeks, so I could be, or maybe a little bit longer than that, but I think Ethereum at $10,000, isn't that roughly equivalent to, in terms of market cap, if XRP were like $20? Somebody can just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something like that. I want to say that's about right, but I'd have to check it. But so that's all that to say. If we're going to have a situation where XRP competes with Ethereum again, which is historically normal, we just missed it last cycle, but it's historically normal in times of euphoria. It is not crazy to think that XRP could get up that high. It's just not. Even Kaleo thinks that. Now, Kaleo, popular analyst, 729,000 followers. This guy hates XRP. He does not like it, but he thinks it's going to rip. Look at this post from him yesterday. He wrote, XRP looks ready for price discovery. And then he shared a fractal that was pointing towards $15 for XRP. This guy hates XRP, and he's looking at $15 XRP. It's just so fascinating. There are people who like XRP, but they are so afraid right now, and they're bearish. And it's just so funny to see somebody that hates XRP be more bullish on XRP than some people in our community who have been tricked into becoming bears. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of funny. And then he wrote just this evening at 5:01 p.m., he said, should see a nice acceleration higher on a break above $2.40. So he thinks if we get above there, you could see it rip much higher. And even more interestingly, he shared a couple posts here. This is also from this evening, 4:57 p.m. He said, as hated as XRP is, it looks good versus Bitcoin and Ethereum. When it moves fast. Quick sins followed by years of pain. Okay. I'm glad that he recognizes that XRP looks fantastic. And I'm glad that he recognizes that when XRP goes, it really goes. But as far as the years of pain comment, come on, man. First of all, if you're talking about the 7-year gap, the freaking SEC sued Ripple, okay? Maybe there's a reason for that, okay? And if you're not talking about that years of pain, yeah, it's called a bear market. All of crypto goes through it. Okay, all of crypto goes through it. Let's not pretend that this is different for XRP. It is true that when XRP goes, you got really strong bursts, but let's not pretend that on the negative side, you know, the consolidation, let's not pretend that that's a uniquely XRP thing here. But then he wrote, and I like that he acknowledged this, he wrote, and for what it's worth, XRP has flipped Ethereum in market cap before. It was brief, but it did happen. Would be careful saying it's impossible that it couldn't make another brief run back to those levels. Think about that, folks. I'm glad he's being intellectually honest, at least. He hates XRP. But yeah, and in fact, XRP flipped Ethereum in market cap multiple times, actually. And it was short-lived. You know, that's true. But this is why I say now that you've got a market where there's a level playing field and the United States government is not picking winners and losers. It's not attacking XRP anymore. Now that you've got that, yeah, you better believe that it's perfectly reasonable to speculate that XRP might end up coming for that number 2 spot in market cap. And that's why I say, even if Ethereum just doubles its all-time high from last cycle, you've got about $10,000 XRP. So if that happens, talking about $20 XRP this cycle is not crazy. If that happens, it's not crazy to speculate it. Here's a post from chart analyst Freedom by 40. XRP, still one of the best looking charts out there. Still expecting green box, if not pink. And I'll describe this for those of you not looking at the screen. The green box, it's an area of where he thinks XRP realistically might land. And it shows upwards of $8.48. And if you get to the pink box, that's upwards of $13.54. So yet another analyst who is optimistic that this double-digit price territory, pretty damn reasonable. And I can't help but agree. It's perfectly reasonable. Here's a post from chart analyst All in Crypto. Very common that all-time highs act as resistance when approached on the way to an asset achieving price discovery. XRP did exactly this, and in our assessment is setting up a handle to complete a textbook cup and handle setup. Price discovery awaits us as holders. So yet another analyst optimistic, we going higher. Here's a post from Cryptolica. This is the same thing he keeps posting, but I just wanted to highlight he's not deviating from his expectation here. Simply put, XRP target $10. $10 plus. He still believes we're going to be going to double-digit price territory this market cycle. Here's a post from chart analyst CW. He says XRP is steadily rising towards its previous resistance level, the all-time high. The rocket will launch from the all-time high. A breakout of the all-time high means there are no further resistance levels. The current situation is like installing a rocket on the launch pad. And the chart on the screen there is targeting $21.50. He just believes you got to get through there. And that conceptually makes sense because that would be genuine face-melting price discovery. That's going to be the fun part. And it's going to be short-lived. If history is to rhyme with itself, you might have like 2 or 3 weeks. You'll have 2 or 3 weeks of XRP rocketing, and then we're going to hit a peak. It could mean, not to say it couldn't go a little bit longer, but I'm just saying historically, if you look at moments of euphoria, that's all we're going to have. And then it's going to go down, and we won't know for sure. That's the time when we're actually not going to see a new all-time high for a while. But that's going to be the moment of opportunity. So I just hope you guys got your exit plans ready if you do indeed intend to take profits, because you're not. It's going to be really fast. I hope you got a bunch of exchange accounts set up, and because there will be exchanges going down undoubtedly when you're in market euphoria. You won't be able to buy and sell at times when you want to necessarily. Just count on stuff like that. But there's this very short window for us to change our lives, and I still think it's coming. I really do. Here's a post from Coins Kid. It's from this morning. He said, XRP closed above the 5-day ribbon in a juicy candle. Oh, it's so moist. However, it did the exact same before rolling over again in 2022. We are now looking for multiple closes above the ribbon to confirm an uptrend and take out the 5-wave move down at $2.68. It's coming, folks. It's coming. Here's a post from Steph is Crypto. XRP's current price action is strongly resembling what we saw in 2017. Left chart, XRP in 2017, and the right one's 2026. In both periods, XRP went through a long consolidation, followed by a sharp corrective move that formed a falling wedge. In 2017, that structure marked the final reset before the breakout. Once price exited the wedge, XRP entered its expansion phase and momentum accelerated rapidly. That same setup is visible today. The corrective structure looks complete, downside momentum has faded, and XRP is now breaking out of the same type of compression zone that preceded the 2017 rally. And that's fine. You can compare it to 2017. That was the first burst that we got in the 2017 bull run. So it would have been first half of 2017, and then, of course, in December, you got another one. But it's similar to what other analysts were drawing. They were drawing lines for a falling wedge, noting that we've broken out of it, obviously, at this point. Real stuff, man. It's we're sitting pretty at this point. Then there was this from Charting Guy. It says, all bears All bears have is a couple 2021 fractals that are playing in their favor for now. Bulls have fractals plus many things to back up their thesis here. Tether dominance breaking down. And of course, that's important because if that's breaking down, historically, that means it's flown into other coins, altcoins especially. Bitcoin dominance barely hanging on and never got its cycle ending move down. Yeah, and so historically when Bitcoin dominance goes down, that's when altcoins rip to the upside. That's why that matters. It says ETH BTC coiling for a big move up. Okay, tons of analysts I follow have been talking about that. I've seen tons of them talk about that, and that's important if you hold XRP or other altcoins because ETH historically has led the initial burst in terms of alt season. And then he said so Coinbase stock correction completed and looking for higher. 1 year ABC correction since December 2024, where the sentiment truly peaked. A shorter term 335 ABC expanded flat from July to December that replicated the spring correction exactly. And then he cited IWM price discovery. IWM, of course, is the ticker symbol for an ETF that tracks the Russell 2000, which is small cap stock. So when you see IWM, people are talking about the Russell 2000. It's just an ETF that tracks it. And so he's saying it's in price discovery. And I'll note, by the way, today, I meant to mention this earlier, the stock market hit a new all-time high today. It did. It hit another new all-time high. We're knocking on 7,000's door. The Russell 2000's up today. Did not hit a new all-time high. But, he's characterizing it as price discovery. We have seen all-time highs for IWM recently, though. And then he says copper gold ratio. He says macro slowly turning positive for risk. That's certainly true. I've talked about that to just endlessly. Then he says sentiment and indicators completely reset. All bears have is fear and doubt spreading to keep their narratives alive. Yeah, I think the bears are wrong. They think we're wrong they think I'm wrong because I'm bullish. And if you're on my side, meaning you're a bull, then they think you're wrong also. We'll find out. And maybe we'll look back and you're like, damn, that didn't go like we were hoping. Possible. I kind of doubt it for so many reasons. But you guys tell me what you think. I'm wrapping up here. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.